This is the Fresh Out of 24 Breakfast Break Fast Grits and Grits. All too familiar with this course. I'm on the NB 7/8 today instead of the DT Swiss disc wheels because I want to try something a little bit different. I want to see how much more effort it takes for me to keep up with the group and hopefully get a little bit of an advantage. So I'm thinking if I put out a little bit more wattage to stay with the group, but I can save some wattage climbing, then maybe it's the same as having the disc wheels, but we'll see. I got dropped the moment I started with the Robo Pacer at 1.8 watts per kilogram. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. Ought to be fun though. 13 seconds. Basically a like almost 5-minute effort out the gate thanks to the climb. Hey, Keys is in here. Great racer.
So here we go at the start of the Skur climb, and while I started with a nice punch, trying to get over this 8%, and basically the hardest part of this climb, I didn't intend on doing a breakaway. You see we're about 4 meters, 5 meters or so off the front. Me and the T. Leduc from Herd, which I will say is a little bit of a spoiler alert. He and I basically are neck and neck almost the entire race. Like anytime I go off the front, he comes up behind me and ends up passing me, which I thought was great because it kept the racing fun. It kept it, even though throughout the race, I didn't intend on doing any breakaways. My focus was, staying with the group, and in order to stay with the group on hills like this, I have to overpower the hill. I have to go up front and basically, come up to the top of the hill or to the next hump, as strong as I can, and then let the group kind of come up behind me in order to stay with the group. So here's the second half of the climb. And again, I'm pushing out to the front, hit my feather, knowing that I'm going to get another one. That's the one good thing about this race, is that there are so many power-ups that you get on this race. So it's beneficial to be able to, use them strategically and either use them to keep up with the group or use them to, plan strategic attacks or, strategic moves. So here we go, coming down the backside of the Skur, and I honestly don't know what happened here. I was pedaling good, thought things were going great, hit 57 kilometers an hour, stopped pedaling, hoping to get into a super tuck, and I don't. And little by little, I start falling back, and I'm noticing that I'm falling back little by little, and the group is gone. Like all of a sudden, the pack is, almost a second ahead of me, and they're gone. And if I don't start pedaling, I'm basically gonna lose the wheel forever, because that's kind of how things go. So I end up having to put a nice deep effort to get into the back of this group. You see the guy next to me who is surprisingly in the Zwift basic kit, basic bike, and obviously doing well, staying with this front group. So even though I can't see where they're at right now, I see the little name tags up in the distance, and I just decided to go for it. And I will say the 1 minute effort that I did the other day came in super handy today, because that seemed to be the theme of today's race, is these 1 minute efforts to catch up. Like I mentioned before, I'm on the NB wheels to see if that made a difference, and I'm still kind of mulling it over in my mind. Maybe as I go through this race, I will figure out whether or not it was worth it. As you can see, that was a big effort for me to get back on the wheels. And so now that I'm back in, my focus is going to be to stay there and make sure I stay with this front group. So I'm gonna fast forward to the next climb. We're at the Clyde kicker. The group put a little bit of, a little bit of pressure, started pulling away a little bit, but I basically held on to the back, which again was, which is the goal, in these races, to hang on to this front group. We're, in comparison to the rest of the pack, we're gone. We're 24, 25 seconds, maybe 30 seconds ahead of them. We're gone. Those kind of gaps, unless you're a super strong rider, are almost unreachable on these types of stages. So the group starts to break up a little bit here. I get my, use my feather to get up the Clyde kicker. Get another feather, which I decide to use on this first hill because it really is the steepest of all of the, hills, especially this last, like the last 10 meters feels like they're unbearable sometimes, especially if you have your trainer difficulty set to 100% and your weight set correctly, or higher than maybe it was. It can be unbearable to get over that little hump. But the group, for the most part, stays together. I do have to put some stronger efforts, because this little cluster up front is where I was trying to stay. I want to keep the, what essentially would be the top 10 in sight. I want to stay in that pack as long as I can, and just, because I did the recon for the last ZRL event for this stage, I felt like I knew the stage well. I did the recon like 4 or 5 times because I kept messing it up. So I feel like I knew the stage well, and knew where I can push power, knew where I can relax. I so thought about doing this Swifty breakaway here, the Kaboom breakaway, but I just, I punched up a little bit to get, to stay within this little formation. And, as the group eased off, so did I. Because again, this is, the focus seemed like, at this point, it seemed like the focus, especially through this sprint. So as we were going through the sprint, I was realizing that the focus of this group was not to, not for people to break away, but to be able to tackle these climbs. I for sure thought someone was going to try and sprint on this. So I shifted up a gear, but ended up shifting right back down as I saw that no one did anything. We all just stayed together. And so I was a little bit happy about that, because I knew at this point the group was really focused on, those four laps around the Brea'k, and then, the Clyde, or not the Clyde kicker, the Sagur climb at the end. And so, gonna keep moving it forward. So I'm starting it back up here because if you see where I'm at, so I'm pushing, 3-ish 100 watts. We're on a little bit of an incline, 2%. And as you can see, the group is starting to slowly inch away from me. And this is where I start thinking, did I choose the right wheels? We're now on a little bit of a decline, 0%, but we're going to start diving a little further down. But even on this 0%, you can see the group is little by little starting to pull away. And I'm starting to fall off the back. I put a little bit of pressure. I'm still, my watts dropped into the, 100s there per second for 3. But I quickly have to pick it back up into the 300s just to stay back on. And, I don't know if this is a me thing, because I'm maybe easing too much off the pedals and then, having to put more pressure back on myself in order to keep back on. But you'll see it again here in a second. I start to slowly slide off the back. I'm, in the 200s and slowly, fading away, and having to put a little bit of a dig in order to get back onto this group, because I did not want to fall more than a couple meters behind. I didn't want to fall behind at all. I wanted to stay in the front, maybe half the front third of this group. Now, one thing you'll notice as I start to come up on this group, there must be new pack dynamics in play because I don't phase through anybody. I see other people phase through people, but I don't phase through anybody. Oh, there we go. Never mind. Lied. I didn't see it while I was riding, so I wasn't sure. But, or is it me not phasing through certain people because we're all on the same pack dynamics? I don't know. But I noticed it when we initially left the gate that we were just kind of like bumping instead of phasing through. And then I saw a couple people phase through, and I was like, oh, maybe it's just them. Maybe they're on they're not on the latest update. I'm on 179. But it seems like a couple people I bump off of them, and others, I guess, now having seen this, I do phase through. But even on this right here, you can see that, I end up going around the outside of the group instead of just kind of dropping through them. So here comes the first lap of the Brea'k, and again, I push off the front. Not because I'm trying to, do a breakaway or anything. You see my wattage is not very high, and here comes Leduc from Herd, come up right behind me to pass me. Which again, when I saw him do that on this one, I was like, you know what, that's funny. I was like, I don't know if he thinks I'm trying to get away, and he's just either responsible for making sure the breakaways are covered, or that's maybe his own personal philosophy is like, hey, I'm not going to let anyone go off the front. Either way, I sent him a message in the Zwift companion app thanking him for that, because that kept the pace hard. That kept it, that made me work harder every time I would see him come up. I would push a little bit more just to have both of us kind of keeping that pressure on each other. And so, as we're going down this hill, again, it's a little bit of a struggle for me to get on. And I don't know if this is because the wheels are much lighter than the disc wheels and, requires a little bit more effort, but ultimately I'm putting out more effort on the downhills than I normally would. And so as I start to come through this pack, I ease off because I'm, again, not focused on, pushing off the front. What I did do in this case is, as I went off the front, I was like, what, let me keep my legs turning just so that way I don't go too far back, and I can just let the draft resistance, not having any draft resistance, kind of push me back into the group. And so that way when I soft pedal, I just kind of float into the group, which is kind of what happened. As you can see, the rider there with the Zwift Christmas jersey. So if you switch to, I don't remember exactly which basic one, but there's one of the basic ones. It's one of the first three that you get, maybe the first one. But if you switch that one, it'll switch you to the Christmas jersey if you don't know that already. So I thought about it when I saw a couple people in the pen with it. I thought about using it maybe for, I can't for the TTT or ZRL, because those are team events. I should have done it for this one. I really should have. So here we go, lap 2 on the Brea'k. And, again, I'm looking at, where the climb is at. I decide to wait a little bit longer to use my feather till we get to the line. You see I trigger it, and then a bunch of other people trigger it. And, it's either because we all thought the same, or because it's that kind of instant reaction of, oh, time to use it, because this person's using it. Some people trigger a little bit later, which I feel like is a little bit better, because you carry it over that hump, but and then towards the end it starts to incline just ever so slightly, and so you still have the lightweight power up as you get to the line, which is again a little bit of an incline. And so you see here it goes up to 1%, almost right at the line. But so there's a video that Road to A made that I'll definitely tag or I'll put like a little banner or something, link to it, so that way you can check it out. Fantastic video, and it really shows how your watts per kilogram, and being a lightweight rider. So being a lighter weight rider gives you benefits on essentially everything except for downhill. And so sprints, climbing, you know, those those two main avenues, you get a good benefit over someone that is heavier than you, significantly heavier than you. But on the downhills where you lose the benefit, and seemingly not by much, but probably enough to where you have to put a little bit more effort. Which is why I was concerned, because even though I'm in my losing weight for the FRR in January, specifically for that last stage, the goal is to get as close to 70 kilograms by that last stage. And right now I'm at 84. As of this race, I was at 84.1. Today I'm in the 83s, but I won't track that until the end of the week, just because I want to make sure that I get a good average of what the week is. So getting ready to go in to round 3 of the Brea'k, but I'm going to fast forward all the way through because it's basically the same of what we've done. All right, so as we come up to the backside of the castle here, I'm starting to feel the pain. My sweat ended up initiating my feather, which I was completely upset about. I don't know if that's why other people initiated theirs. I didn't see at the time because I was, trying to clean off my screen. My daughter came through to help me out, turn on a couple more fans because I was getting so hot. By this point, I was already, really feeling the effects of overheating. So you got, you see the group is starting to break away from us. Me and Leduc are kind of here at the end, and I don't know. They must be a heavier rider than I am, because little by little, he starts to pull away from me, and I'm trying to dig into these deeper efforts to catch up. I'm using this. I'm trying to use the downhill as best I can, so that way I can kind of speed up a little bit. You see my speed going a little bit higher, but I know that the only way I'm going to catch this group is on the uphill, because that's where they seem to slow down the most, and I can dig a little bit deeper to try and catch on. So I'd start to dig in the 400s now, trying to catch up, and I start to feel the burn in my thighs, and really more important, I'm feeling the burn in my chest. My heart rate's in 180s, and I could not catch up. I couldn't dig deep enough to catch up. And so you see Leduc off the back there, caught up without an issue, and they are gone. At this point, they're gone. I don't have the, cardiovascular depth to catch them. And I'm, in my mind, I'm getting a little bit frustrated because I know that I can contend on the end. I know that if I can get to the Segura climb with them, that I can dig deep enough to get to the line in a reasonable place. There are some strong riders there, and when I looked at the ending, there's some guys holding some serious wattage, some serious watts per kilogram at the end. Upper 4s, mid 4s, but still, I felt like I could have held on a little bit better. And so as the group just kind of starts to get away there, I just focus on do my best to I see that I got a 50-second gap or so to the person behind me, the Valhalla rider. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do my best to I'm in I'm in no man's land in between groups, which is probably one of the worst places to be on Zwift. But I know that, I just got to get to the Segura climb before the pack behind me, specifically before the two riders behind me, because they're probably about the same distance, or close to the same distance to each other. And then, I'm sure they're going to want to catch up to me if they could. But I'm right now 17 seconds off the back of that front group, and I know that I'm not going to get them. There's not enough climbing, not enough terrain for me to dig deep enough to get there. And again, my heart rate's in the 180s and just kind of holding hard there, which I was, it came down to I didn't have I had one fan on in the front on its lowest setting. I had one fan behind me on its highest setting. And while I felt good initially, I did not, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So I'm gonna fast forward here to the beginning of the Segura. So I'm gonna speed up this climb because really it just comes down to, it's just me by myself. I'm looking at the Valhalla rider, seeing that he's 30 seconds and closing in. So at this point, all I want to do is get to the line before him. I see that as I'm getting over the top of this last, hard section for the climb, that, I've still got, quite a bit, 20 seconds or so. So I just ease off the pedals and kind of soft pedal to the line, knowing that at that point, that person's not going to catch up. And so I end up in 14th place, which I thought was really good considering, I held on to the main group for a really long time. I held on as long as I could and ultimately got within a couple kilometers of the end of the race and, with the front group. And so you see there, one guy had 4.1, 3.8, but, really good group, strong guys. I know a lot of people were, I was definitely upset when the ZRS V2 and V3 came out, but it really does feel like everything's kind of balanced right now, and everybody's slowly shifting back into the racing score that they originally. So it seems like everybody got reseeded to somewhere around where they were originally reseeded or seeded to, and then we're all slowly making our way back up to where we were prior to the V1 or prior to the V2 and V3 changes. And so, again, good group. Great race, great racing. And so JD's in a different racing group, so I'm, keeping tabs on him, which is why I keep looking to my left and watching his race. He's, at this point, he was coming up to the end and hovering around 4th, 5th place, which is where he ended. Super strong ride. But after this race was done, I don't know if the NB wheels helped me or hurt me. Some races like this, I might not have been able to keep up with the front group as long as I had today, but others I might have kept up. So that's the hard part about the, switching, kind of that N of 1 experiment, switching plans and testing, and you don't know if the race dynamics are the reason why you did better or worse. And so for the Zwift Racing League, I'm going to actually keep this set up and see how I do. Even though it's the last race and, we got quite a bit, it's similar to this stage where there's a lot of hills, a lot of turnabouts, a lot of hills, ups and downs, flats. So since it's similar, I'm going to keep it this way. Hopefully it helps me with the Zwift KOM climbing and getting me further up in last week's stage I finished in the 30s, I think 33 to 37, somewhere around there. So I'm hoping to do the same today. If not, finish in the maybe top 20, that would be fantastic, but I will see. So hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you on the next one.